Everyone, senators grilled the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter on Capitol Hill today about conservative censorship on their platforms. Mark Zuckerberg admits that Facebook slapped warnings on, you ready for this, more than 150 million pieces of content during the election cycle. And Twitter flagged more than 300,000 tweets in just the past 3 weeks. Almost all of those tweets mentioned voter fraud, and nearly all of them flagged, go figure, were Republicans, not Democrats. Senator Ted Cruz ripped into Twitter's Jack Dorsey for it.
Does voter fraud exist?
I don't know for certain.
Are you an expert in voter fraud?
No, I'm not.
Well, why then is Twitter right now putting purported warnings on virtually any statement about voter fraud?
We're simply linking to a broader conversation so that people have more information.
No, you're not. You put up a page that says, quote, voter fraud of any kind is exceedingly rare in the United States. That's not linking to a broader conversation. That's taking a disputed policy position.
Jack Dorsey's response is like saying, I don't know if crime exists. Of course voter fraud exists. Of course crime exists. And guess what? They're both the same thing. This is the second time the social media execs have had to answer to Congress during this election, and maybe even the most offensive comment came again from Twitter's Jack Dorsey, who now says they made a mistake censoring the posts about Hunter Biden and his corruption treasure trove of a laptop, claiming, quote, we were wrong. Well, that's easy to say now after they hid these serious allegations of Biden corruption from voters leading up to the election. It's a disgrace. To discuss all of this, former special assistant to the president and communications director at America First Action. Please welcome Kelly Sadler. We're also joined by the former governor of Virginia, Republican Bob McDonnell. Governor, Kelly, great to see you both. Kelly, let me start with you. I am amazed that I am saying Zuckerberg doesn't seem like that bad a guy, but I think it's only because of what an arrogant jerk that Dorsey seems to be, Kelly.
Well, you got to understand these guys are instant billionaires, right? These are guys, and I don't want to offend your audience, but who didn't get laid until their mid-20s. They got lucky in what they did, and they are now sociopaths. I'm sorry to say this, but we saw the Twitter interference and the Facebook interference in this election in the summertime when we were running ads saying that Joe Biden wanted to raise your taxes. And they said, oh, this could be offensive material, and it got labeled, it got flagged, and then it got deplatformed from Facebook. So they have a lot to answer for. They are publishers, and 230 needs to be revoked on these guys because they're acting as publishers. What Twitter was it was started off as a blog where anyone could voice whatever opinion they had, and they did not discriminate. What it's turned into is exactly what they were against when they started the company off.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to start to label this stuff. They certainly become publishers, and once they do that, they lose the protections, in my opinion. Governor, you know, Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, blasted these guys today, and she said she had a tweet that was labeled as a warning label talking about the Trump Accountability Project, and that it was the epitome of cancel culture. The Trump Accountability Project is an idea to not let anybody who worked for the Trump administration, Kelly, I'm sorry, ever have a job in the future, Governor. How do they label that?
You know, I'm really at a loss. These were pioneers in free speech, and they've turned it completely on its head from their origins, as Kelly said. You know, Zuckerberg said that the reason some of these things were being censored, of course only against conservatives, was to prevent civil unrest. Well, they don't seem to be concerned about it when there's tweets put up by Antifa or BLM or other left-wing people that urge people to go out and have violence on the streets. They don't seem to be concerned about that. And, you know, Grant, this goes right against the basic constitutional protections about free speech. You know, you can't yell fire in a theater, but that's not like saying there might be fraud in this election and we need to make sure that every vote counts. It's very different. We have remedies. It's called defamation. But this thought police and whatever hate speech is, that's in the eye of the beholder, and it's a very dangerous path.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And now it appears there's evidence that the three big guys are colluding with each other, Twitter, Google, and Facebook. I want to run this soundbite from Josh Hawley, who called them out on this. Listen.
What particularly intrigued me is that the platform reflects censorship input from Google and Twitter as well. So Facebook, as I understand it, Facebook censorship teams communicate with their counterparts at Twitter and Google and then enter those companies' suggestions for censorship onto the task platform so that Facebook can then follow up with them and effectively coordinate their censorship efforts.
Kelly, this means that they're all working together as one big happy family to censor us and stop the free flow of information, specifically conservative thought, Kelly.
No, I mean, this is very scary information, and it's something that was a breakthrough today in today's hearing. And the thought that, you know, I think it was Ted Cruz who asked Facebook CEO Zuckerberg, like, isn't your platform meant to be addictive? Isn't it supposed to get people hooked on this? And he couldn't give an answer, like so many answers he couldn't give. These CEOs were like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to have to check. But this is big tech at its worst. And they played a part in this election. They had a heavy hand in this election. Joe Biden's campaign said, I think to the Daily Beast today or to the Huffington Post today, that the Hunter Biden story was a flash. It got more hits on social media or like within conservative networks, but it didn't break through to the larger platform. And that was because of big tech.
Of course it was. Governor, I want to give you the last word, and I'll just make a note that Facebook apparently blocked a Vietnamese dissident speaking out against the government at the communist government's request. So that goes to show you what Facebook thinks about freedom.
You know, it really is stunning when you think of the origins of these platforms, which really have done a lot over the years to be able to find a way for normal people to be able to communicate and have a voice. I mean, everybody's a member of the press now because of social media. But when you go down this dangerous path of undermining the basic provisions behind the First Amendment and have regulators based on what they think is right or what is not, and define civil unrest, I mean, I think you're asking for an awful lot of trouble. And now they're in this quagmire. And I think what they're going to invite is both the House and the Senate at some point looking at breaking up monopolies from Amazon to Facebook and others because they just have too much power in regulating First Amendment rights.
Well, something needs to be done. That is for sure. Kelly Sadler, Bob McDonald, both of you, great to see you on the program. Thank you so much today. Coming up on Stinchfield, folks. Absolutely. We'll see you later, Governor.